Okay. Last class, we actually talked about introduction to the field of organizational behavior. So we did discuss some of these slides, but I'll just quickly go over them so that you become familiar with what we were discussing. Maybe some of you didn't have the chance to come for the last class. So we wanted to speak about and discuss about how important interpersonal skills are, also define the field of org behavior. And another objective for today's class is to see how org behavior can be a systematic study, which it should be, and identify those disciplines, behavioral science disciplines that have contributed to org behavior, and why there cannot be absolutes that can be applicable to org behavior because it's about human beings. We all know that. And also, we want to identify some of the challenges that managers face. And given the current situation and the technology that we have, those challenges have become tougher. And of course, we have plenty of opportunities that we can use org behavior to solve those challenges that we face. And also compare the layout of the book itself and how org behavior can be studied. So the first thing that we discussed yesterday was how important are interpersonal skills, and I think you recall that some of you were talking about how important it is for interpersonal skills in teams to maintain cohesion, to get the work done, also to communicate better, to coordinate better, to not duplicate work, and to see that we can motivate our own team members if you're playing the role of a leader. So there are plenty of things that we discussed, and also why interpersonal skills are important, so that you feel that you're recognized at the workplace, and it just improves your sense of feeling of belongingness to the workplace itself. It can reduce your stress levels. You enjoy going to work. You're happy contributing because you get the recognition that you deserve. And obviously, it just reduces the amount of stress and it enhances the sense of job satisfaction that you can have at the workplace. And again, interpersonal skills are important for you to be socially responsible and be aware of, your peer group and your fellow workers' interests, preferences, their cultural sensitivities. So you're more aware of that, and so interpersonal skills are extremely important at the workplace. And if not directly, they indirectly contribute to better financial performance. So we discussed that, and we also talked about how do we define a manager is someone who can get the job done and who can get it done through people that they work with. So that's the role of any manager, whether it's in an educational institution like ours, whether it's a service industry like hotels, restaurants, or whether it's in a manufacturing location, say Foxconn in China. Any of these companies require managers so that they can get the job done. Again, why do they have to get work done through people? It's simple because we cannot do everything ourselves, and organizations have goals and tasks and purposes which are way bigger than what individuals can accomplish. So that's the next part of the definition of what is an organization. An organization is basically the coming together of people. It's a social unit. It cannot be an organization cannot be a single individual. It has to be two or more. Yeah, like yesterday, the way we were discussing, if it's a family business, it can be as small as 3 or 4 members of the family who can do a family business. And perhaps the level of planning, organizing, leading, and controlling the management functions that we discussed yesterday, you cannot define somebody who's just going to be doing planning or organizing, leading, and controlling. They do all of those functions, and it's much more easy because the organization is small in terms of a family business. But as it gets the business gets larger and you start operating in more than one region or more than one country, you need to define clearly who is supposed to be doing what in terms of planning. What are your responsibilities in terms of organizing? What are your responsibilities? What is expected of you in terms of leading? And what do you do to measure performance, collect data, take reports, and assess how much of progress you have made? What are you supposed to be doing in your job at your level in terms of controlling? So things change. The management functions broadly can be classified as planning activities, organizing, leading, and controlling activities. We discussed some of these in detail yesterday's class as well, in last class as well. And yeah, again, it all differs from which level you are in the organization, how you spend your time, what is expected of you depends if you're on the entry level, at the middle level, or at the top level in the organizational pyramid that we saw yet in the last class. So that's what we talked about, those four functions being major ways of classifying management's job or manager's job. Again, we also talked about Mintzberg's managerial roles. It's just not about these four functions. Each of us, when we work, I'm sure some of you have had the work experience, whether it's your own business, whether you were helping your family in your family business, or whether you have had an opportunity to have an internship or a job opportunity somewhere before doing a business major. I'm sure you would have realized you play several roles, and Mintzberg has classified these roles into these categories. The first category is the interpersonal roles, under which you have the figurehead role, the leader role, and the liaison role. So obviously, the figurehead is, is the symbolic head, and he does a lot of things which connect the organization with societies that they operate in. They're also somebody who represents the organization in a number of routine activities, including legal issues that can be involved. So that's the role of a figurehead. Not necessarily all of us play that role. I haven't done that. I'm not a figurehead. So obviously, I don't represent the organization in legal battles or something like that. So it depends where you are in the organization structure. Leader, again, a very important interpersonal role. I think all of us play a leadership role in some form or the other. Like you have teams for this course or behavior course, and each of you have responsibilities, and you play different roles. And maybe one of you or a couple of you can play the role of a leader, motivating your friends, talking to them, getting the assignment moving, helping them stay focused, or if they have issues, trying to resolve them. So you're playing the role of a leader even in your own assignment teams. It's not necessary you have to be a leader in a formal organization. Even at school, in the campus, in the School of Management, in this course, you can definitely play the role of a leader. Yeah, and liaison, again, you're like a bridge between the organization and other external stakeholders. So that's what uh, managers sometimes play. I've not done attendance, so I'll wait because some of the students were still joining when I started off. So I'll do the attendance towards the end of the class. Yeah, so liaison role. Sometimes we do interact with other external stakeholders, including government agencies, regulatory bodies. We also talk and bridge and network with suppliers as much as we do with customers and clients. So we are playing different roles at different times of the day when we do our jobs, or it also differs between how much, what level we are in the organization. Informational role, that's the second category of roles that Henry Mintzberg talks about. Again, information is a key. We all depend on information for decision making, for guiding our action. We depend on information to know the future course of action that we have to take as an organization or as a team. And under informational roles, you have again monitor, because you act sometimes like as a nerve center. You collect data from outside, you collect information from outside, and you're also passing on information from inside to the external stakeholders. So you basically are monitoring the flow of information. You're like a checkpoint to see what information can be shared, what shouldn't be. Disseminator, you might play the role of a disseminator several times over because you're talking to your employees, passing on the important information, whether it is about the mission statement of the organization, redefining the vision and communicating the vision of the organization. Every year or every 3 years, you have short-term and long-term goals that you would want to communicate with key members as much as you want to communicate with all employees. So you have to disseminate information. Disseminating information can be as simple as passing on instructions. So information flow is a key, whether you use email, whether you do meetings, or whether you do Zoom sessions, or you're sending out newsletters, bulletin boards. The channels can be anything, but you are going to play the role of an information disseminator. It'll never be written on your job description, but obviously, we all understand information, passing on information back and forth is what we do every day. And then going after the next role under informational roles that Henry Mintzberg talked about, you sometimes play the role of a spokesperson. So you're transmitting to outsiders long-term plans, change in policy. You're reporting, say, results. You're happy to announce certain things that you're planning to do as a company. Again, to build a brand image, create a positive goodwill, retain customers, confidence. So you play the role of a spokesperson at different fora, and that's what is another role. Not necessarily you will do it every day, but you might be called in to do those duties. And yeah, that's a nice thing to do. So you got to prepare yourself to play several roles in your current job. The better you equip yourself and the more familiar you are with these skills, the greater is the chance that you will be recognized and you'll grow in the organization. I can give you an example of myself. I started off as a very introverted person, very shy and very quiet. And sometimes I keep thinking, am I even fit to be a faculty? Because faculty shouldn't be quiet and shy and introverted. So once I recognized that I have certain things that I should improve on, I tried being less introverted. I tried to socialize more. It's not necessary I've mastered those skills. That means I have plenty to learn. But the more I understand and am aware of what I need to improve, the better I equip myself, the effort is there in the right direction to, hone those skills and make sure that I can succeed. I give myself a fair chance to succeed because I know where I should improve. So I thought I'll give you a personal example. Yeah, Mintzberg also talked about decisional roles. We all are taking decisions at the workplace. So sometimes we can play the role of an entrepreneur within the company, as Dhruv actually rightly pointed out last class. Entrepreneur, because you're already working within the company and you're finding out opportunities for product improvements, process improvements, new approaches or strategies that can attract more customers, retain the existing customers. So you could be playing something, you're bringing into the table something innovative, very creative. So you're an entrepreneur within the company, or an intrapreneur if you want to use that word. So that's one thing that is an important role that you might want to consider yourself to be playing at different points of your career. Disturbance handler, you understand organizations are complex, resources are restricted, limited, and then you have people coming from different backgrounds, different experiences, different cultures. So definitely you're going to have certain disturbances, conflict situations. You got to manage those. So you might be called in as a mediator, as somebody who can handle those disturbances, whether it's allocation of resources, or whether it is to do with power and authority or decision making. You might handle those disturbances. And then that actually ties up with the next point, resource allocator. Some of us, when we progress in the organization, when we occupy higher positions, we have this ability to allocate resources, to grant funds, to give finances, to make decisions, to recruit people. So, once you reach that point, you're also playing the role of a resource allocator. And because resources are limited, you better learn how to, manage resources optimally. You want to make best use of whatever resources that are available at your disposal. You don't want to be misusing those resources and then suddenly you run out of resources, whether it's human resource, technology access, or it could be finance resource. Anything, social capital, intellectual capital, relational capital. All these are resource points for a company, even including the brand name. That's a resource. So you want to make sure you know how to allocate resources. Give it to people and teams who are responsible, who will use those resources and maximize the output from those application of these resources. Negotiator, yeah, sometimes you will be called in to, say, talk with external agencies, collaborations, partnerships that you might want to forge as a company. and got to know how to make a deal. When I speak about deal, I'm actually forced to think about President Trump. Everybody used to speak about him as a tough negotiator. He's the business guy and he knows how to negotiate tough. And I'm sure he succeeded fair bit when he was negotiating with other countries deals, and it could be arms deals, it could be business deals, or it could be negotiating for, say, tax concessions for American exports. So you have to be a negotiator some point of time in your life, and the higher the position that you occupy, the more number of times you'll be called in to play the role of a negotiator. So these are wonderful ways of looking at what managers do. Apart from the four functions that are planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, you play several roles. Like the way you play at home. You're a daughter, you're a son, you're a brother, you're a scholar at the university, you're an employee at the workplace. So you play different roles and you do it seamlessly. And the more you understand and you figure out what are role expectations, uh, that much more you'll be able to balance your work, and that much more you will be able to enjoy and contribute in different roles. So we all play different roles, whether it's at home or whether it's in organizations. It's very important that we develop the skills required to play those roles both efficiently and effectively. Any questions till now? Because I think I've just repeated what we were talking last class. So I'm thinking I'm clear, but if you have questions, please feel free to ask. Okay,
I
somebody,
have a question.
sure.
So, last class, we asked what a leader was
Mm-hmm,
and what a controller was.
mm-hmm.
Could you go in between what controlling and leading is again?
Like, you want me to explain that again, or do you feel that you just got confused between what's leading versus controlling?
I just didn't get the definition of controlling.
Okay, I'll explain this maybe differently this time, and hopefully it clarifies. See, leading is your ability to motivate your employees, to give them a sense of direction, and to inspire them to think outside the box, and to make them have this collective aspiration, shared vision, and change their mental models in ways that are facilitative, that actually tell them that they are empowered and they can do big things. That kind of inspiration or motivation or giving a sense of direction, that is leading. And controlling is when you can actually look at what was planned, what are the goals that were planned for your organization, for your department, for your team, and what has been achieved. Can you take feedback? You take stock of what has been done. You're looking at numbers, you're taking feedback, you're taking reports in. And then you want to make sure that your actual performance of the organization is very close to whatever the targeted performances are, if not better than the targets. But if you find your actual performance of the company to be a little lower than the targeted performance, you want to also do controlling is also about remedial action. What is causing that discrepancy? Why is it that we had a goal and why is it that we were not able to achieve 100% of the goal? What is causing that little discrepancy? Suppose we are achieving only 80% of the goal. So why is there a deviation of 20%? Is it because of external factors which we have no control over? Or is it because of some process problems that we have within the firm? Or is it because of personnel problems that we have within the firm? Or is it because we could have done better in everything that we should have done? So you can go back to the drawing board and look at your internal strengths and weaknesses, identify areas of improvement, initiate remedial action, and then push it slowly towards the targeted goals. That function, which actually is taking stock about what you've done and what's causing that discrepancy, if you can analyze that, and then if you can initiate a remedial action, that closes the loop. You start with planning, you organize, you allocate people with tasks and responsibilities. You also do resource allocation. You lead them, you inspire them to work, you recognize them, you appreciate good work, and then you come to controlling where measuring. Impact is important. Looking at numbers is important. Taking reports is important. And taking a stock about how much more we could do. Where are the areas where we could improve? And what kind of necessary changes, either in strategy, procedures, or policies, or training that maybe employees would require so that our actual performance gets closer to those targeted performance? That actually closes the loop. So did I explain that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
So yeah, you have something else to ask? Okay,
No, that's it.
cool. So that's yeah, we come off to this slide where we're talking of management skills. Broadly classified, this is not like the perfect list. You can categorize management skills differently if you want to, but this is a very broad classification. So you look at managers or whichever level they are, you're looking at technical skills. Everybody should have some form of technical skills that they say, yeah, this is a skill that is very unique, that I'm really good at. I have a level of expertise that I can really bring to the table. Then those are technical skills. Whether you're an accountant, whether you're a specialist in data analysis, or you're a specialist in finance, or whatever finance decisions that could be involved, investment decisions that could be involved, whether you're a marketing specialist or a sales specialist. So these are technical skills. You should be trained. You should have had some education, perhaps some certification, some use of tools, technologies that can be there, software. So all those fall under technical skills. Not necessarily you have all of them. You have those technical skills which you think make you more employable and which actually help you perform better at your current workplace and keep your employment for a long time because those skills are in demand. So those can be classified as technical skills. So as I was telling you last class, it's not a bad thing if you can go back and look at your resume and ask yourself, what are the two or three, most important technical skills that can get me a job, just not for now, but which will also keep me employed for the next 5 years or sometimes even next 10 years. So you want those to get into your resume. If you have them, great. If you have at least a couple, you might want to add a third one if you think that's where the industry is headed to. So those are technical skills, and all of us have to have it. You ask me the question, there are many things I would want to learn. You can call me I'm lazy, perhaps I should agree. And then I want to develop those skills, definitely, for sure. Otherwise, I become irrelevant. I become, they can get rid of me easily. But if I bring in some technical skills which are difficult to find, and the level of expertise is very specialized, then you can't get rid of me that easily. So those are important. Human skills is about what we are talking in our behavior, the ability to work in teams, in groups, to understand what's required, to motivate others, to recognize other people's work, and the interpersonal skills that we were speaking so much about. These are human skills. However good you are in your technical skills, there's no way we can discount the importance of human skills, your ability to work with others, because organizations are social units. And the last one is conceptual skills. I think that is where management is very strong at in terms of our program, because we tell you and we give you opportunities to analyze. This is what I'm trying to do. In my class, I'm getting you to think, whether it is about applying what I'm speaking in your personal life, or whether you can apply what I'm speaking in your workplace if you're working. And if you're not working, to at least get you to imagine, okay, when you start working or when you get back to work, how can I use these concepts or models or theories in practical ways? You don't have to remember all the jargon, but if you understand, this is what makes sense to me. Can I put the dots together? Can I analyze a situation? Can I help my team make a decision and choose the right approach to solving a problem? Those we call as conceptual skills, and that you get by education, by the exposure that you get to industry, by talking to people, by participating in those challenging scenarios. The more you do it, the greater refinement of your conceptual skills. So those are the three broad categories. Everybody requires all three. But if you get back to, say, the different levels in the organization, top management, perhaps they require less of technical skills because they are not hands-on. They're not actually reading financial documents. They are not doing the accounting, but they understand it. They definitely have technical knowledge, but the amount of technical skills is much lesser. Human skills, everybody requires in the same measure. But the top management, conceptual skills, your ability to analyze a situation, to make the right decision for the entire organization, extremely important. They're using their brains all the time. They know what to make of the several bits and pieces of information that come from different levels in the organization. That is why CEOs and CFOs, those are the guys who get paid high. It's because that's the think tank. They're using their conceptual skills. So I would think your progression as you progress in your job career, perhaps you start with a lot of technical skills. So I cannot emphasize how important technical skills is. You're not going to be employed as a CEO as soon as you begin your career. None of us is going to be that way. So we have to focus on an adequate number of technical skills. Everybody at all levels require the same measure of human skills. So those two are something that we can work right away. And me too. And eventually, as you occupy higher level positions, you begin to realize, wow, I'm not going to be using those softwares and technologies and doing all that work. Somebody else will do it. But whatever data comes from there, whatever inputs and reports come from there, I am the person who is making decisions. That ability to analyze comes from experience and your exposure, right? So did I explain that? If you have questions, please ask. Okay, so org behavior, again, it's about the impact. We are studying the impact of individuals, groups, and organization structure on behavior within the company, within the organization. And again, the purpose of studying org behavior is it's a beautiful course. I mean, it's a beautiful field of study. But the thing is, we want to study something that is applicable, that we can apply at the workplace. So, guys, don't actually take this course just for the grade's sake, which is obviously important because you're paying for it and you want it. But I would say, can you just think when we speak or we discuss, we ask questions, or I'm trying to explain something. Can you think of scenarios and situations where some of this can be applied? Not per se, not exactly the way the theory is, the model is, or somebody's research is, but what elements can be applicable in today's world, at your workplace, at home, in organizing yourself, and trying to create meaningful impact, because we want to improve organizations' effectiveness at the end of the day. So, how do we study org behavior? We don't want to think it's about human beings, so it cannot be systematic. It is systematic. We believe in org behavior, that behavior can be predicted, if not fully, to an extent, especially if you can understand the situation somebody is in, the context somebody is in. You can try and predict a particular behavior. For me, this has been really an eye opener. When I deal with students, it's easy to come back and say this, the policy just doesn't allow this. When you tell me of a situation, when you tell me of a problem, I might simply go and refer to the policy and say, no, I cannot give you the opportunity again. It's over. But org behavior has taught me, why is that a particular student has a problem? What did create a situation for him? I need to understand that. So I try and put myself in your place and then do some fact finding, collect information, and then maybe take a better decision which is in support of your progress. So org behavior is trying to tell us, or people's behavior or individual behavior, group behavior, team behavior can be predicted. The more you understand an individual or team perception of a particular situation, that's a systematic study of behavior. We're just not leaving it to chance. It's not, I like you, I'll do something nice for you. I don't like somebody, I'll be terrible with that person. It's not like that. At the workplace, we want to treat everybody equal. We want to consider situations that are creating a particular behavior, or we want to be systematic in the way we want to assess behavior and take the next steps. Evidence-based management, again, very similar. Suppose I'm in charge of giving you a grade. A professor is. So how do I, grade you? I cannot just grade you on based on one parameter or one assessment or one dimension. I have to take evidences. your class participation. Say, for example, Chris is asking me questions, Drew was talking something, Khalid might talk a little. Your class participation is as important. Your ability to converse and contribute to class discussion is important. So whatever decision I take in terms of giving you a grade should be based on some evidence. And that evidence could be midterm exam, the final exam, team project, team presentation, class participation, could be several things. So it's purely based on evidence how I'm going to recognize you or reward you or appreciate you or give you an appraisal and then eventually give you a grade. So it's evidence based. So you cannot judge people's behavior because just I like personal preferences and personal prejudices. No. So our behavior is telling managers you got to be based on evidence. Whatever you do, decisions must be based on evidence. And then again, we are not ruling out the importance of intuition. Now, intuition is the gut feeling. Why I do and what makes others, tick. I can give you my example. Why did I start working in NYT in 2008? It's my 13th year at NYT, and why do I still stay in the same institution? What makes me tick in the same place? It's intuition. You have this gut feeling. I can tell you straight up, I feel nice. What I do, I'm respected, I'm recognized, and my boss treats me really well with respect and dignity. So it's just the gut feeling. It's not purely evidence. It's not purely systematic. It's also intuition, the connect you have. And how do I not feel bored of teaching OB year after year after year? Because it's just the feeling that is important, the emotional connect that I have for the course and for my students as well. If I don't love what I do, I don't know, even if you give me tons of evidence that our behavior is great, students are great, I'm not going to enjoy what I do. it, Basically it's about me. It's the passion that I carry for what I do. It's teaching. It could be small little work, whatever I do. It's the passion. Before I came to the US in 2018, I'd made a earlier visit in 2019 for the AACSB accreditation visit. I'd been to a little place where they make boats in Boston. So they took us. I was here for a conference in Harvard, and then they took us for a what do you call, a day tour. And there I visited a place where they were making boats. The guy who was explaining how to make a boat, I just admired his passion. I'm like, wow, how many people he must be explaining the same thing, but he's never tired of it. If you see, when I saw the energy that he has, I'm like, oh gosh, I could have not done that. That energy, that passion, it might be his job, it might be his bread winner, or whatever it is, but the passion, that enthusiasm, the energy that he had, the attention to detail that he was giving. So I can't forget some small little incidents which have great lessons for me. So for me, it's not just systematic study, the connection between two variables, fair treatment, job satisfaction, working conditions, job satisfaction. This is a systematic study. Evidence-based management, somebody does consistently across all courses, all assessments, he gets a good grade. Evidence-based management. It's not just that, it's about passion. It's about love for what you do. It's the connect. So that's what is art behavior. It's complementing intuition with systematic study. It's not trying to say just don't have intuition. Intuition is important. Again, big data. This is something all of you might want to consider, please. I say please because personally I feel it's important. Data analytics is the key. You see that word here. I'm glad I used it, though it says big data. Data analytics is the key today. It's the buzzword, including fintech, artificial intelligence, and stuff like that. So any certification that you can do on data analytics, I would strongly recommend you should do something. If you've already done, great, you're in good space. So all decisions that we have at the workplace are driven by data. So it's not just little data, trickles of data that's coming in. You can collect real-time data for several employees, hundreds and thousands of your employees from different locations in the world. So all managerial practices, decisions that you take, and what changes you bring in are driven by data. It's not just purely data. Intuition is there, analysis is there, your experience comes into play, but there's plenty of data. And data analytics helps you, classify that data, categorize that data, clean it up for you, help you make, those decisions. It gives you options. Not necessarily you have to choose one of them, but at least you're informed. You're not going to make as many errors that you would have made if you did not have data, right? Again, limitations: use evidence as much possible to inform your intuition and experience. So I'm not trying to say data is everything. I'm not trying to say that you can take all decisions purely based on data, but data definitely helps. When the data is a lot, you need data analytics, understanding of a system or software that analyzes the data for you in meaningful ways, helps you take decision, and then helps your intuition or experience process. That's something that is a key. So org behavior, human resource management, marketing, sales management, all are driven. Like Amazon uses data analytics. All these, say for example, Alibaba uses data analytics big time. All these great companies, big companies, plenty of data analytics. They're collecting data and they know what to make out of the data. So any certification, anything related to, say, people analytics, HR analytics, or marketing analytics, finance analytics, whichever field is of interest to you, any certification really will help. Okay, let me go a little faster. So what are the disciplines that contribute to org behavior? Psychology. Obviously, we're trying to understand how people behave, what motivates them, how do they learn, what is their attitudes. We are interested in everything about human beings, and psychology is that field of study, which if you have taken psychology 101, you understand, you will see a lot of concepts coming from psychology. So psychology as a discipline has contributed like crazy to org behavior. I don't know, I have a chat, so just give me a second as I check. Collecting data is the first step towards knowledge. Sharing data is the first step towards community. Completely agree, IBM. And IBM does a lot of, they have three modules, I guess. It's called big data, data analytics, and business intelligence. And if you guys, because you seem to be hooked onto that idea of data analytics, exploring that a little bit further, Coursera has several courses and certifications from all across the world. Good universities offer free courses on data analytics, and you can use the website called Coursera.com. I'm sure most of you know it. EDX.com, another place, Udemy or Udacity. So there are a lot of sources that are available today, free sources. You don't have to pay unless you want to get a certificate, you want to take an advanced level, maybe you have to pay. But otherwise, several free opportunities where classes are there, slides are there, video lessons are there, and you just do the exams and do the assessments. You get a certification. You can put it on your resume. So explore. I've had in this Christmas break, I wanted to do, yeah, and no, most of them are actually accredited and they are valued. And if you do something from IBM, IBM even offers to put your credentials on their LinkedIn network. Suppose if Dhruv actually finishes off their module on, say, big data, and then you have another module on data analytics, and you have your business intelligence. If you finish all three from IBM, and if your credentials are really top notch, IBM will ask you, are you okay if we want to share your credentials or certifications in these three areas with all our clients? And if you give them the permission, they'll blast it across through all their clients. So you could be recruited by any of IBM's large industrial clients. So there is benefit. We had a little articulations agreement at Abu Dhabi campus with IBM, and they offered these courses for free. So I don't know if it's still there available for universities, but just explore. Then there are other areas which contribute to org behavior. Sociology. How do people actually behave in social environments? And what are the impacts of culture? I think we all understand and appreciate the fact that we are so creative, and the fact that we bring in so much of innovation possibilities to the workplace, wherever we work, is because of the differences in culture, the way we were raised, the way we actually grew up, and our life experiences are so important for us. So sociology is focused on studying people in relation to their social environment and also the impacts of culture, which we all should be sensitive to. See, I've worked in several campus locations, and the greatest gift I've got, the biggest learning that I've got, is learning from other cultures. It's an eye opener because I would have thought, I know so much, and then when I hear and listen to other people tackle the same problem or approach the same issue, they have a very unique, different perspective, which in itself is an opportunity for me to learn. So I can't emphasize more the importance of culture, and sociology brings in all those cultural effects into our behavior. Then the last one is, of course, anthropology, and it's about how people act in societies, about human beings and their activities in societies. So structure, change, and those kind of things come from social psychology as much as they come from anthropology and sociology. So, why do we have very few absolutes in org behavior? Is because there are so many contingency or situational variables. See, if you can predict my behavior today, probably you have a good chance because I'm in a good mood, I'm doing my job, I'm happy, I feel secure with my job, I'm not having challenges to face in my personal life. You can predict behavior and say Prabhakar is going to be nice today and he's a nice human being. Suppose if the situation gets really out of hands, I have a lot of challenges to face. I might not be the same sweet person that I should be. Or if my boss is giving me a hard time, he's just making my life a hell. He's putting an enormous amount of stress. I think the way my job satisfaction is getting hurt. My work life balance is being disturbed. My contributions go down. My performance is negatively affected. I might indulge in deviant behavior. So there are plenty of things that affect us, and those are called as situational variables. And that's why, because human beings are not like other equipment or machines, so we cannot be 100% sure. There are plenty of contingency variables that come into picture. So,
Professor, I don't know.
mhm, what is it?
I don't know if it's relevant, but so basically, I was reading about this that back in 60s or 70s when there were a lot of serial killers, and it was
Mhm,
hard to catch them in the U.S. FBI set out a new special branch. I forgot the name, but it basically studied the human behavior, and they interviewed and talked to a lot of like big serial killers in jails and prison,
mhm.
and they formed like a new branch that would try to predict, not predict, but like if there's a serial killer, they would try to see based on their behavior that where they work, how is their behavior and whatnot, and try to catch. And they have stopped so many serial killers like that. It was a fascinating read that I read
You
somewhere in the
know,
newspaper.
yeah, what you're saying is absolutely relevant. You bring in a very important point. So those contingency variables, whatever situational factors that people are in, definitely has a bearing on how they behave, how they would react to a particular situation. So yeah, you're right, and there are plenty of such experiments and research activities that have been done in our behavior. We have some, I think, in the next chapter, like Hawthorne studies. Hopefully it is there, and if it's there, I can explain to you some of those experiments that they did. And that's where I think it was as early as 1923, 28, between that 5 year period. Hawthorne and his bunch of researchers did a series of experiments, and those experiments were really nice. I mean, they actually tell you how people started thinking at the workplace. Behavior is so important. It's not just about getting output, not manufacturing and producing products, controlling production process, controlling quality, making sure you have higher productivity and just managing time. It's about people, it's about their emotions, it's about their feelings, their attitudes, their levels of motivation. These things were first studied in 1923 when you had a lot of industrialization. That is when, like you rightly point out, in the 1960s they did that, but in the 1920s, that is when Hawthorne did his series of experiments, and this is where org behavior started off. So if it's there in the second chapter, I'll bring it up. And if it's not, maybe we'll can also discuss it out of the class. So yeah, what are the challenges for org behavior and the opportunities that we have? Is if you look at the categories of employment, there's several categories: employed, underemployed, underutilized, reemployed, unemployed, jobless, entrepreneurs, retired, job seeking, furloughed. You still have your job, but you're not going to be paid. You can be furloughed, you could be laid off. I think all this has happened during the pandemic. Some lucky people have got employed or they've got re-employed. Plenty of them are not, they've become jobless. Some have had to take a retirement because the health issues were so strong, so big. There are plenty of people seeking jobs. Furloughs, every organization that I know in the US, so many employees are furloughed. It's a very sad situation, and hopefully for the world, this pandemic passes by and the economy revives, and that we'll not continue to have as many layoffs. So this is one of the things that we have, and the types of employment: full-time, part-time, flexible time, job sharing, contingent, independent contractors, temporary, reduced hours, interns. I would always encourage you to try out as many internship opportunities as possible. I know it's not easy to get those internship opportunities. Please seek out. Tell people that you're there. Create a LinkedIn account. Create a interesting profile. Portray all the important skills that you have, so that the world knows that you're there and you're ready to offer your services. That you bring in unique set of skills. I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, but yeah, that's what's happening. So you got to make sure that you're applying for those opportunities. The more you put on your resume and the more you learn, the more confident you get, the greater chance that you can keep your next job for a longer period of time. Yeah, but again, the key is to not feel stressed. The key is to keep going, and then remember all the positives that you have had in life, and all the unique abilities that you have. And if you're blessed with that support system, family and friends and people who love you, there's nothing like that during tough times. I think you need that support system. It's not the number of people, but at least a few people who really genuinely, whom you can talk to, and who can you can seek advice, and who are willing to support you morally, and who love you. I think that's just such a key important thing. So as much as you build your skills, I think you should also build that kind of support system always. A core group which will never, give up on you, will never forsake you. Places of employment, again, it could be anchored, it could be an office, it could be a cubicle, shared space. I had in my previous campus in Jordan for NYT, we had the floating shared space. It was nice. People came in, they took their little part of the office, they worked and went away. Now it's sad, everything has got virtual. I know there are advantages, but they're long hours. These days, the people look at my teaching schedule and say, Prabhakar, you don't have classes today. Can you come for a meeting? I can't even say no because I'm available at home. I'm not traveling. I don't want to be traveling. I don't want to go out because it doesn't feel that safe. So they know I'm at home anytime. Friday evening, Monday morning, 8:30. My meetings start at 8:30. I'm sure you have the same experience. Zoom and virtual has given us more work. Good or bad, I don't know, but we are more productive. Maybe we are more stressed. At least I'm not. I'm one person. I'm chilled out. Whatever happens, I just remember that we are very lucky. I'm grateful. There are many out there who don't have a home, who don't have a job, who don't have a family. Some of them don't have a country to go. I have all that, so I feel grateful. So whatever is thrown on me, I'm gleefully happy to take it and try and do whatever best I can. Flexible places of employment, work from home. That's what's happening right now. Conditions of employment. It could be local, expatriate. Guys, that's another thing that I would want to tell you. Don't look at opportunities only, say, in the East Coast or in the tri-state, or you don't restrict yourself. Mobility should not be a problem. Keep yourself open to all opportunities, whether it's local, or whether it's going in another country and working, short-term assignments that you might have, flexpatriate, international business travel, visa employee, like I am. I'm on a H-1B visa. I've worked in 4 different countries, and I'm open to trying out working in other countries. You might say, "Are you crazy? You want to settle? Don't you want to settle down? Don't you? Do you want to put your family always under stress moving?" I think life is about moving. Life is a journey. So I am crazy in some way. I am, but I would suggest you, because you're young and you can take that extra bit of risk and you have that much more flexibility. Apply everywhere. Apply everywhere that makes you feel interested, whichever organization, whichever country, whichever industry. Don't restrict yourself. At some point of time in your life, you can be restricted if you choose to. If you have the luxury, you can restrict yourself. But now, don't pick and choose. Just keep applying. You never know what you will find. Anyway, I'm sorry, but I shouldn't be talking all that. I should have been just focusing on the slide. But yeah, sometimes I just digress and talk stuff which is advisory kind of thing. Compensation can be salary, hourly, overtime, bonus. All this, contract, time off, benefits. All of them are important. When you actually take up and sign off your next agreement, make sure that you read your contract well, that you see the terms and conditions properly, and take time. Just don't sign off on the dotted line without seeing the benefits, including the medical, the insurance, what coverages you have, and all that is important. And you're starting early and you're starting young. I think you should start off on the right note. It's not always easy that you can dictate terms on salary and terms and conditions, but at least you should not be exploited. Don't undersell yourself. You know how good you are, so don't let people exploit you. So you don't have to be rude, but you have to be assured. You need to be certain what you're negotiating for, because you know how good you are. Simple as that. So all these things definitely have an impact for organizations. I'm sorry, but what did you say about furloughed? Yeah, those who actually keep their jobs, they're not like fired from their jobs, but they might not get a salary. So for just the time being, and eventually they can be laid off. They can even lose their jobs. But if they don't receive a salary, that's generally what is furlough. Maybe there are other different ways of furloughing people, but that's what I understand as furloughed employees. Identify the challenges and opportunities of OB concepts. Yeah, we spoke about several of them. In tough economic times, management is important. It's a big asset. You need strong leadership. You need effective management. You know how to use your resources. In good times, you know how to reward, satisfy, and retain employees, because you don't want talented people to leave you. In bad times, stress can be there, decision can making can be tough. But how do you cope with these kind of issues? So OB actually makes you better at dealing with the tough economic times, or the good times, or the bad times. So responding to these economic cycles or pressure situations, you are better equipped if you understand org behavior concepts. It just makes you better in everything. That's what I feel. Responding to globalization. Suppose we have companies, all these multinational companies, they have operations everywhere. Like when somebody was speaking about IBM in the chat. IBM's 80% of its operations and sales and business comes from outside the US. It's an American company which has operations, 80% of its operations, even its revenues and profits, 80% of it comes from outside the US. Truly globalized company. And if you become part of an IBM workforce, you will have increased work foreign assignments. And that means you as an employee and IBM employees have to be trained how to work in different cultures. And so that you give them a fair chance to succeed everywhere. Overseeing movement of jobs to countries with low cost labor. So how do you optimally use your resources? Why does IBM have 80% of its operations outside US? Because they want to leverage low cost, more effective, highly skilled workforce. Adapting to different culture and regulatory norms. Norms in China are very different. Norms in Brazil, very different. Norms in the US, completely different. Yeah, so you got to understand how you're operating in every country. Make sure you're in compliance, that you don't get unnecessary attention as a company, and all your employees should be trained in that. And if you talk about how the number of women and have increased in the workforce. This is old numbers, 2015. I'm sure it's way higher now, which is a good thing because the more we have, and I personally believe that women employees are really very industrious, they're focused, they're very strong leaders, and that's something that all of us should be happy about. So these are emerging things that are happening. This is, I think, US data. I think this is also a global phenomenon, and more opportunities, and the kind of barriers that you have in terms of salary and wages between men and women, that is actually narrowing down. You have more and more women employees getting paid on par with their male counterparts. That's a good thing as well. So workforce diversity. Fortunately for me, I've worked in countries where there's plenty of workforce diversity. Like I worked in UAE. 90% of the population in United Arab Emirates is expatriate. They're international. 90%. Barely 9 to 10% are locals. So you can imagine you have chance to work with Europeans, you have chance to work with Chinese, people from say Indonesia, Malaysia, Australians. You had people working, plenty of employees from US, and huge population from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, the Asian countries basically. So that was a great opportunity for me to learn. And even at NYT, we had faculty and staff from different countries, students from different countries. So it's a great experience when you work in a workforce that is very diverse. It's a learning experience, honestly. And I can tell you personally, my MBA classes, we had the average age of my MBA student in Abu Dhabi campus was like 35. So there's always a very mature kind of student population at the MBA program there. Each of them was able to talk and interact, and I could learn every class from them. They were vice presidents, chairmen, big guys. So I learned from every student at the MBA class. So workforce diversity is a big blessing. So that's something that we all should become comfortable with, and we are happy and we realize the potential and opportunities that it presents. Customer service or behavior. Suppose we have satisfied employees. Obviously, they're going to treat our customers better. They understand, empathize with the customer. They are patient with the customers. They are happy to give customers more information. Same with professors. If you have professors who are treated well, who are respected, they treat students better, because without you, we guys are not even going to be here. The faster I realize students are everything, the better it's for the school, the better it's for the university, better it's for everyone, because you are central. Students are everything. Of course, faculty play an important role, but you are the core of everything that we should be doing, whether it's teaching, whether it's supporting you, helping you, or engaging you in research, getting you internship opportunities, connecting you with industry. I think all of us, each of us, faculty, staff, all of us have to be focused on serving you. So you guys present us the greatest opportunity to serve. That's how I look at it. So it's important that you treat your employees really well, take good care of them, and motivate them, and make sure that that translates into their interaction with customers. So if we want our employees to be responsive to customers, if we want them to have the right attitude while dealing with customers, understanding our behavior becomes important. You treat your employees well, the internal customers, then you have a better chance that you will treat your external customers, the actual customers, in a nicer way. Improving people skills, I think we talked about it. So I'm not going to go back here. There's several theories and concepts that will happen. We will discuss in the next few chapters, all very important ones. I'm sure many of the theories and models you're very familiar with because you've taken psychology 101, you've heard it from other professors. So it's not as if I'm going to teach you all new stuff, but it's all interesting. And the more you want to talk, I'll be happy to take your inputs. And again, other challenges and opportunities for org behavior concepts, networking. And if you look at how even New York Tech, for example, we have partnerships with French universities called EFAP. We have connections with other universities in the US, and we have connections with other universities in China. We have the Jufi program in China, for example. It's a Chinese university that we collaborate with. So organizations are not, separate entities. We are always networking. We're learning from our Chinese counterparts and partners. We're learning from the French university that we work with, and that actually is a great opportunity. So obviously the culture, the challenges, working in different environments, sending faculty there, bringing those faculty here. So it's mobility of workforce, cultural differences, keeping people motivated to contribute in different countries with different customers. All that is again a chance for you to apply org behavioral concepts. Social media, I think I'm not the expert here. You guys are. So you know what social media is, and how powerful social media can be, whether it is about sharing awareness about all the initiatives, the great things that the organization does, or all the great things that we do for our employees, or all the wonderful things that we want to initiate for our customers. We can use social media to great effect in the number of people on planet Earth that are getting onto internet, that are getting connected to social media. That's just increasing. It's just not going to decrease. So it presents, unlimited opportunities for sharing information, for creating a brand image, for transmitting all the great work that you're doing, the innovations that you're working, sharing the future directions of the organization itself. So social media is a real powerful tool. The only challenge is, do we really know how to use it at the appropriate time, the right, social media platforms? I think that's important because when they search for us, are we at the right places? Do we appear first? And do they get to see what they should be seeing? I think search engine optimization, layout of our, web pages, our presence on social media platforms, and the level of updating those social media platforms. How active are we? How do we respond? And are we exciting? Do we do something really exciting? So much is to do with your generation, guys. Somebody like me, we can talk about the theory, but I don't know exactly how your generation is hooked onto social media. If I know that better, we'll do the right thing. So here, this is one area where you're the experts, not me at all. So enhancing employee well-being at work, I think we spoke about it, like creation of a global workforce. It does mean that you don't have enough time to sleep because you're in different time zones. Technology, you're staying connected at any place at any time. Virtual offices are possible. As I was explaining, we work longer hours per week. It's so many meetings I do Saturdays and Sundays these days. All I enjoy them. I'm happy doing it. But yeah, it can have an effect. Lifestyles of families can change. It can create conflict. If you come home to my home, it's funny. My two kids are on computers because they are attending school, and my wife is a faculty. She's teaching another room with her computer. She's talking to her laptop. I'm in another room, locked away, and I'm talking to my laptop. It's like, what are we doing? But that's how our lives have changed. So they can create opportunities, they can create stress. Yeah, we also want to talk about the environment that we create for our employees. This is the positive work environment slide. This is an opportunity again. We want to make sure that our employees are focused, they're taken care of, they're resilient, like organizations must be. During pandemic, we've lost revenue, we lost students. McDonald's has lost customers, all other businesses have lost customers. Sears has closed many of their outlets, Macy's has closed many of their outlets. So I think everybody's under stress. So our behavior should help us you know keep our morale and the motivation going, and to know how to support our existing employees, how to utilize their resources, engage them in constructive ways, and build that resilience during tough times. So I can't emphasize how important our behavior is. It's all up to people who appreciate this. How much can you apply it? Ethical dilemmas. Again, this is an important thing that you want to be aware of when you actually work in different countries, because there are certain things that are universally accepted called universalism. There are universal things like, say, honesty, truth, being, these things are appreciated across the world. But there's some relativism. Certain countries, certain things are, acceptable. In certain countries, certain things are not acceptable. So you got to understand those ethical issues, and have your own code of conduct and your ethical codes that you want to train your employees on, and that you want to make sure that we will not compromise on certain ethical, standpoints, whether it's in design of quality product, or the promises that we make, and what we are ready to deliver. We don't, you know falsely represent information. We don't hide information. We want to be transparent with our practices, with employees, with customers. So I think these are things that our behavior also focuses on. And I can't tell you guys how important staying ethical uh, is in businesses. You might sometimes think ethics has no place in business. I would completely disagree. Those companies that stay for longer than one generation, they're forever, are those that have some ethical standards. The way they treat their own employees is different, and the way they treat their customers is different. It's not, I'm not trying to say there is a perfect company out there, there's a perfect organization out there. There's several issues that can come, but the fact that more ethical companies can own up their mistakes, and can try and remedy those kind of issues that they've had in the past. So that's how ethical companies are, and our behavior focuses on those ethical dilemmas and ethical codes that organizations must follow. Yeah, here is the last section for today. Hopefully, I'll finish fast. Inputs, processes, and outcomes. This is the OB model that we'll follow. And quickly, the next few slides are the same thing as what you find in this slide. So once I explain this slide, I'm going to skip all the other slides till about 32. Because inputs, what are the inputs in organizational behavior? At the individual level, it's diversity that we bring, different personalities that we have, the values that we have in common, and unique values that we bring. Those are the inputs. What happens to at the group level inputs? It's the group structure, how large group, small group, functionally differently skilled team members in a group. There are group roles that we play. Somebody could play the role of a disseminator, a monitor. I could play the role of a gatekeeper. I could play the role of a harmonizer, decision maker. So I could play different roles. Those are the inputs. Team responsibilities. Do we have collective goals? Do we share responsibility? Do we hold each other mutually accountable? Those are the inputs at the group level. And at the inputs at the organization level, the structure, how complex it is, how many levels do you have in the organization structure, or how simple it can be. Are we operating in different locations in different geographical regions? How complex is it, our structure? The larger the organization, the more complex the organization, the more levels, the more departments, and of course the culture in the organization. That's the organizational culture. We spoke about Google's culture, a lot of flexibility, a lot of emphasis on innovation. So culture is a organizational level input. Well, let's go off to the process, the second column. What are the processes at the individual level? Emotions and moods. Individuals, we all bring emotions and moods. Motivation, what keeps us focused, what keeps our drive, and what makes us work towards accomplishing certain needs. So that's our motivation. Perception, how do I perceive my class? Do I think about it as a work, or do I think about it as a pleasure? It's a joy. Do I see this as a tough thing to do, or do I enjoy it? So perception is such a key, but individual level process. It's happening in your brain basically. Decision making, individual process. When I decide to stay, I've thought about many things. I've considered several factors. I've looked at reviews. I've collected data. I've sought information, and then I make my own decision. So that's an individual process. Group level process, communication can get really tough in groups. Leadership, group level process. If I live all by myself in a jungle, I don't have to lead anybody. Leadership is required when I'm leading a bunch of people, whether it's family, friends, or organizations. And group level process, power and politics. You understand that. We want to control others' activities. We want to control inputs and outputs and outcomes. And that's power. We want to influence action. We want to influence outcomes. Politics, you know, you understand this better than anybody. Conflict and negotiation, group level, because you have two people, two groups always conflicting, don't necessarily agree with something. How do you manage this conflict in constructive ways? How do you negotiate and come to a deal? That's a group level process, not individual. Then you come to organizational level. So human resource management, staffing, recruiting, training, development, appraisal, all those compensating, all these are HR functions at the organizational. This is a process. Change, the only constant, right? If we don't change, we are gone. Pandemic hit us and forced us to change. If we don't change quickly, we might be gone. So that's an organizational level process. One individual cannot do it. Organizational level. We need systems, we need technology, we need people. It's a process. Only then change has a good chance of succeeding. Then we come to the most important, the last column, outcomes. Individual outcomes, right attitude, positive attitude, low levels, manageable levels of stress. Task performance, we want to be productive, we want to be efficient and effective. Organizational citizenship behavior, it's called OCB. If I can do something beyond what is expected from me at the workplace, beyond what is expected of me from my job, that is citizenship behavior. I'm not going to say I don't want to be talking to you guys on Saturday, but if someone requires help on Saturday, I'm happy to help. Perhaps that's like an example of citizenship behavior. Maybe there are others. Withdrawal behavior. Suppose I'm not happy at the workplace, too much of stress. I don't know if I can keep my job. I feel insecure. I have withdrawal symptoms. I don't feel connected anymore. I don't give my best. That's an outcome, negative outcome. Group level outcomes, group cohesion. We want to be together as a team. We feel we are one. We feel we're connected. We feel we share a common purpose. All our efforts are directed towards that common purpose. Group cohesion. It's an attractive team, socially glued together. Group functioning. We want to be efficient and effective. We want to be productive. We want to show outcomes. AACSB accreditation for the School of Management that we got, maintenance of accreditation in 2020, group level outcome. We cannot get the accreditation by individuals. Group level, everybody in the school, students, faculty, staff, industry partners, everybody worked towards it. Group functioning was great. Then organizational level, again, productivity, say NYT goals, NYT finances, NYT, a new curriculum and new programs. Survival, as much as growth is important, survival is important. So those are organizational outcomes. I think I just finished off that. We don't have too much time. So I finished all these variables. Implications for managers, we spoke about it. We don't want to make arbitrary decisions, but we want to use some systematic study, look at the variables that impact the behavior. Of course, we will still consider intuition. We also want to consider cause and effect relationship. I want to make sure that interpersonal skills are used to good effect. So those are implications. And the last one, I think, is about using big data, which we spoke about, and making sure we treat our employees well, so that they treat the customers really good, and we manage the workplace really well, including conflict. We're productive as an organization. So those are the implications for managers. All of that we're going to talk in org behavior is actually practical. So thank you. And I don't think we have too much time to